have to bundle up for a blizzard.
Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm here today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
It's going well, thank you.
It's nice. It's 61 sunny out. It's supposed to get to 74 today. It was 81 yesterday.
Yeah, I wore shorts yesterday. I walked my 1.5 miles and I wore shorts. Can you believe it? And tomorrow I have to put a parka on.
Yeah, we're supposed to have blizzard-like conditions and 3 to 5 inches of snow tomorrow, folks, here in Omaha. And it's just like,
welcome to the Great Plains.
yeah. Well, it's certainly been windy the last couple of days, but no shortage of that. It just when the wind changes, it brings us weather from a different part of the world.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we were getting a breeze off the Gulf of America yesterday. So, it's really funny, this whole controversy about Gulf of Mexico versus Gulf of America, because I pretty much always just called it the Gulf.
Right.
I've never.
Just call it the Gulf.
It's just the Gulf. To most Americans.
Hey, speaking of the wind, I just pulled up the spp.org website, the grid conglomerate that provides power. We are right now, the power that's powering this podcast, 59%, actually over 59% of the electrical energy is being generated by wind right now.
You know what we need to do? We need to get like some type of widget that goes on the screen and it shows what our current percentage of the show is being powered by wind.
I tell you, I watch this fairly frequently, and you'll see it. I've seen it as high. I think one time, and it was like even 80%. But generally, springtime especially, and then as we're crossing in the fall into winter, it'll go up. But I've seen it anywhere from a low of like 10%. Where
I haven't really ever thought about that. We are a solar and wind powered podcast because I have solar, and you mix that with the wind.
And I'm getting mine from the wind.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Well, let's talk first about what was the senator's name? You said you knew it was. You say Mark Kelly?
Yeah, Senator Mark Kelly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess to be a good Democrat, he decided he's traded in his Tesla Model S.
Yep.
And he wanted to get an American-made, union-made vehicle, so he bought a GMC Yukon. Right. Now, that was just real interesting to go from a super fuel efficient green vehicle to
15 miles per gallon that Yukon gets. Mark, what are you thinking of?
The hypocrisy. Well, so I thought it would be kind of fun.
Should I add one thing? Is that the article that brought this up and got my attention was a U.S. oil tanker that collided off in the English Channel and is on fire and burning in the English Channel. And then right below that is the article on Mark Kelly trading his really highly energy efficient, electrically powered sedan, right? It's a Tesla, sadly, for a GMC gas guzzling Yukon. I actually went to the Facebook page and said, Mark, the least you could have done is bought a Rivian.
Well, he could have went and gotten a Hummer EV.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same size as the Yukon. It's not terribly energy efficient or anything like that, but it's still an EV that's made with union labor.
Yeah. Yep.
He really didn't think that through.
There's all kinds of GM EVs out there now. I have one sitting in the garage. I replaced a Toyota with a GM vehicle, a Chevy Volt. So, hey.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So I thought it would be fun to cover the most American-made cars.
Yes,
and this is kind of interesting. I'm first going to show a graphic, though, from 2023. Okay, so this is the most American-made cars in 2023. Number 1, Tesla Model Y EV. Tesla number 2, Model 3 EV, followed by the Model X EV and the Model S EV. So the top 4 were in 2023 were all Teslas and EVs. The first gas-powered car was a Honda. Now these are most American-made cars. This isn't like,
Yeah.
something best-selling or anything like that. This is
Yeah.
where most of the car is made in the United States,
Yep. Out in
followed by
Ohio.
Volkswagen. I remember years ago, a police department wanting to buy the most American-made sedans, and they had to buy Volkswagens because that was the most American-made car.
Most American
Okay,
made
at the
car.
time, and that was
Yeah.
pre-Tesla. This was back before 2010.
Right.
Okay, but now this is from 2023. Then we got the Honda Odyssey, the Acura MDX, the Honda Ridgeline pickup is the most American-made pickup truck. Is the Honda Ridgeline? Would you have thought
Yeah.
that? No.
No.
Acura RDX, and on this list, so the very first American-made vehicle is the Lincoln Corsair. When I say most American, of the big three unionized automakers in the United States in 2023,
What
the
is a Corsair? I've never heard of it.
it's a Lincoln SUV. It's a smaller
Oh,
SUV, I guess.
okay.
I'm not familiar with it either, but I'm just saying it was number 16, and the Chevy Corvette was number 19.
There
Those
you
were the
go.
those are the only big three automakers in the top 20. You
As
get some others
American
down
made. Yeah.
as American made. So we like to think of Ford, GM, and Stellantis as being American companies. Of course, most people don't know that Stellantis is Chrysler, but um, they're not. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to change this over to the 2024 because the numbers changed quite a bit in 24. But my concern was what Senator Mark Kelly changed over, but the Model Y still in first. Honda Passport moved to number 2. Model S still around number 4. I think that's about where it was the year before. But it would go Honda Camry. But what was interesting is Jeep dropped into the top 10 with the Jeep Gladiator pickup truck, which I thought was kind of interesting. So they're in there, but
Is it now
Tesla Model X.
yeah, when you say American, you're specifically referring to continental United States as opposed to America, Canada to Mexico kind of
Yeah,
a
yeah. So a lot of your, like for instance, a lot of your full size pickup trucks are made in Mexico. A very high percentage of American brand full size pickup trucks. Now, so you still have 3 Teslas in the top 10, and but other than the Jeep, looking down here for another big 3 automakers, the Ram 1500 came in at number 19. So you got 2 American made in the top 20.
in the top
And
20. Holy crap.
interestingly, Model 3 dropped down to number 21. And I'm suspecting maybe they're buying more batteries overseas or something.
Yeah, it could be, yeah, BYD or cattle batteries.
I know that the Tesla Model 3, the tires come from Canada.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility there as well. But you keep looking down the list, you see all these. I mean, even Kia Sportage was 22. It was the highest of the Korean automakers. But it's funny. And now we're looking for GMC now, since the senator decided to get a GMC. Oh, the Yukon. It has improved. It was 71 in 2023. It's moved up to 42. It's
Not
the
for
42nd most
42.
American made. 42.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't think Senator Kelly's staff did a very good research job on this.
Yeah. I'm really wondering if Rivian was even sourced on this because I
I
never
don't
saw any
you never
Rivians on
see
either
it.
list.
Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe you
Yeah.
have to have a certain volume to be able to be considered on the list. Hey,
Yeah.
I happen to think instead of the Rivian, he could have bought the Prologue, right?
Mhm.
Buy the Honda Prologue, American made, sort of SUV. It's all electric. He could have gone with that.
Yeah, I just
Probably, I would assume, it probably has a UAW workers.
yeah, most and it's just funny to see some of this. See people protesting against Tesla owners. Tesla owners tend to be left-leaning people,
Yeah.
and it's left-leaning people out
Who he's
victimizing each other. I
who
mean, it doesn't make any sense.
yeah, who the head of the company there, this is the news. I mean, I'm looking for stories to put, in our feed, and all I'm seeing is, Tesla and Elon Musk and Trump and how they're destroying, that's the news right now, the news cycle.
Yeah. Oh, it is. There's no question. It's what we see a lot of, and it seems to be the hot topics of debate, or you know, whatever somebody wants to consider. So, we have an article
On
from.
on the on the I should add, on the bright
Mhm.
side, if you short Tesla, you can make a lot of money. Some guy, I think he made something, I don't know how many millions of dollars, like $114 million or something like that, shorting Tesla. Finally, somebody made some money shorting Tesla.
I'm posting the disclaimer for the show down here. We don't normally let Bill give any investment advice. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, 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 no. This is not investment advice. This is entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. We are not recommending you go out and short
No, no,
Tesla.
no, no,
You'll
no.
you'll get your butt handed to you. Um, the thing is, it's always easy in hindsight, right? To look and it's like something dropped, somebody made a grade on a move, but damn, it's tough to just be in a lot of trades at the right time to have one of the,
This is
crazy
not
rise or falls.
this is not where you come for investment advice. Let's just say that right out of the block here. You were not here to give investment advice. We're here to enlighten you as to the trends happening in the world of electric vehicles, bikes, buses, boats, and beyond.
Yeah, unless I get Adib back on here. Eventually, I'll get him
Well,
back on. But he's really
well,
big with
yeah,
green. He's heavily involved in green manufacturing,
right.
and that's a whole different animal. He's trying to
Well,
get his
well,
manufacturing business going.
Adib can give his own disclaimer. This is
Yes,
this is
he
Bill
can.
Moore's disclaimer. Personal. I don't give advice. If I did, I'd
Yes.
probably be worth more than I am.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we're I was looking at this article. It's talking about Saudi Arabia's strategic push into the electric vehicle market, which isn't
Yeah,
really. I mean, we've covered this a little bit before,
yeah,
but
yeah.
obviously, Saudi Arabia is a one-trick pony. They're basically everything runs off of oil. If
Oil
you
and
work
gas.
there in any capacity, you're
Yep.
probably in the oil space, or you're providing personal services of some sort. Okay, and what's happened is the Saudi royal family has dropped significant investment into Lucid, Rivian, and probably some others. I'm sure there's a few others.
Well, yeah,
Um,
they of course they formed their own brand, the Sear brand, as
mhm.
CEER. So they've got another brand and they've actually started constructing a factory to turn those cars up. And the interesting other thing too is that I noticed that they cut a deal with a bunch of different company suppliers, and that one of those happens to be Rimac, right? The guys
Oh,
that make those really fast, super,
yeah.
hyper electric cars. They've done a deal, I guess, to provide motor tech or whatever it is on the part of Rimac. So that's and who else did I see? There's a couple of other European suppliers that they're sourcing. I think the best that they can. So it'll be interesting to watch what happens.
Well, their plan on 30% of Riyadh's vehicles by 2030 to
Yeah,
be electric,
the electric.
which is surprising. You wouldn't expect that from somebody who's in the business of selling fuel, right? But they're
Well,
seeing
not
some changes.
really,
No,
because they can make more profit selling the oil than burning it locally.
yeah. In the last 7 years, the Saudi sovereign wealth fund has invested about 8 billion in EVs. And
What that
23,
is?
Lucid established a manufacturing plant in Saudi Arabia's King Abdullah Economic City with an annual production target of 155,000 electric vehicles, which would make them quite viable. Although, you remember Jigger Shaw's number was 400,000. He said to really be a viable car company,
Yeah.
really you'd be making 400,000 cars. But I don't know where that number comes from, and or whatever. But PIF and Foxconn created Sear Motors, CEER Motors, in
Right.
2022. They expect to create 30,000 jobs, contribute around 8 billion to their GDP by 2034. First batch of vehicles by Sear is anticipated to launch in 2026. They're
Yeah.
leveraging their rich mineral resources to enhance the supply of materials for key components. Yeah, so it's good to see it. By 2030, they plan to install 5,000 fast charging stations. And let me
I
see.
posted, yeah, on the article I posted, by the way, the photograph that I used to illustrate that is the ribbon cutting at the very first public fast charger opened in Saudi Arabia. Those
Oh,
four
nice.
gentlemen, yeah, the four gentlemen standing there.
Yeah.
That's at the ribbon cutting.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about BYD today. Build Your Dreams,
Yep.
which is you know, the big Chinese EV maker that's, owned, what is it,
They're
just
the
8% by Berkshire?
yeah, king of the hill.
Yeah,
Uh,
but Warren Buffett's company owns is a large
which
investor.
which by the way, for our listeners, Dave and I will be getting passes to attend it this spring. So maybe we can do you and I can shoot a video or do something
Live. Yeah,
from
we'll
the
see.
show. Yeah,
We'll see what we can do.
yeah.
Anyways, so BYD is unveiling a new platform for EVs that say could charge as quickly as it takes to pump gas. BYD is going to build a
Wow.
charging network across China. The Super E platform will be capable of peak charging speeds of 1,000 kilowatts, enabling cars that it used to travel about 250 miles on a
5 minute charge.
charge. Yes, that's 50 miles per minute. Now, those gravity chargers in New York City are supposed to add about 40 miles per charge. This one will do 50. So, because the gravity ones are 800 kilowatts, these are 1,000
Thousand
kilowatts.
kilowatts. Yeah.
Of course, the issue comes back: what cars can accept it? Okay,
Mhm.
there's probably no cars in the market yet that can accept this kind. And I remember seeing that there's some Porsches and some Audis that can accept the new 800-watt. But charging speeds of 1,000 kilowatts will be twice as fast as Tesla's superchargers, whose latest version offers up to 500 kilowatt charging speeds. Fast charging technology has been key to increasing EV adoption, as seen as to help assure EV drivers' concerns over being able to charge their cars quickly. Well, if you could get 250 miles in 10 minutes, that's really
Yeah.
quick. That's not a big stop, right? It's not. And your Bolt, for instance, is probably more like 180,
Oh
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it's not known for being a great fast charging
yeah,
EV.
I drove it the past weekend, and what was it? I don't know. I probably did 100 miles, maybe
Mhm.
on it. Maybe not even that much. I don't think it was even that much. And when I plugged it in the evening or the afternoon, it was like thinking what? It was probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it said charge will be complete at 2 a.m. in the morning. So what's that work out to be, right?
Mhm.
So you got what, 8 hours and 10 hours to
To put
to
in
charge
100
to,
miles.
to put in 100 miles, yeah. But then again, that's level two on a 30 amp circuit. So
Right, I get it. I get it. Um, let's see. In order to completely solve our users' charging anxiety, we have been pursuing a goal to make charging electric vehicles as short as the refueling time of petrol vehicles. This is the first time in the industry that the unit of megawatt has been achieved on charging speed. Yeah, well, that's going to suck some power.
Yeah.
Better have some good transformers for that.
Yeah, good
Um,
transformers and probably a battery backup bank.
yes, yeah. So it has the power at the location.
Yep.
Um, the company didn't specify the time frame or how much it would invest in building such facilities. To date, BYD owners have largely relied on other automakers' charging facilities or public charging poles run by third-party operators to charge their vehicles. Tesla has offered superchargers in China for over 10 years now, and smaller Chinese companies like NIO, Li Auto, Xpeng, and Zeekr all have charging facilities they've been building for years.
Well, and
Do
what's
you?
interesting about Neo, of course, is that's the battery fast swap
Mhm,
where you drive into the little building and the thing comes up and unscrews your battery pack, takes it
mhm.
away and replaces it with a new fresh battery pack, and then you drive out and that's like a 5-minute process, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some novel, charging solution ideas. I think that battery swap would be really ideal in the tractor trailer space.
Yeah.
See, there would
Particularly,
make a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah, that would. You pull the well, I would as well. What does he do with the trailer? Does he park the trailer and go into the building and have this process take place, or
In
uh,
my mind, it would still be similar to the current way where they go fuel up. You pull through, you still have your trailer behind you, and the
yeah,
devices would be on either side. They would take the existing batteries, pull them off, and swap in new ones, and
yeah,
then start the charging process on the ones that just
yeah,
picked
because
off.
you've got the saddle tanks, right? And instead of the saddle tanks for the diesel, those are batteries, and he just
Mhm.
comes in, pulls them out, replaces with new ones, and bang, he's on his way. So, yeah,
I mean, to me, that would seem like the reasonable way to make that happen.
yeah,
So, and even then, you could probably still have some onboard batteries that don't get swapped. Yeah, I think you have a lot of things you could do when you've got that large battery banks are going to be
right.
several hundred kilowatt hours.
And what's not to say that instead of the saddles, they could also have. I've seen what they've got. Of course, you have if it's a long over road one, that they've got the sleeper berth and all that kind of. But I've seen some of the early fuel cell ones where they were experimenting with that, where you had a unit behind the cab, and that whole unit behind the cab might be able to be just battery bank. And so you
Mhm.
come in, pull that off, drop the new one in, and away you go.
Yeah, so I think there's you know the charging technology is getting fast, okay? But at a certain point, like we were talking about, you have to have a lot of that energy pre-stored in the batteries. Well, if you had the batteries for the trucks sitting there
Mhm.
constantly charging
Right,
24 hours a day and then being swapped into trucks as they come in and the dead ones
right,
or the low ones going back into that, then you have all the power coming in, whether it's solar or whatever, being absorbed into those
right.
batteries that are charging, right? So you'd have something going there. I'm just saying you'd have a good source because obviously it takes a lot to keep that constant supply of power running with the right transformers to get the kind of power to a um, service station for tractor trailers because it's going to be so much more power than even the cars need.
Yeah, yeah, a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, whereas the cars, it's a much smaller deal when you're going and if somebody's doing gas and they're putting in 12 to 15 gallons of gas in their car, that diesel truck is putting in 300 gallons.
yeah.
You know,
And that 300 gallons is, let's see, what was the number? I saw where I was doing a comparison between a gallon of jet fuel, right?
Mhm.
Because we were talking about aviation and things. Gallon of jet fuel is like 12 kilowatts of energy,
Oh,
where I'm sorry, 12 kilowatts per kilogram.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right. 12 kilowatts per kilogram. And the best battery technology we have at the moment is less than 500 watts per kilogram. Right. So you got a
That's a
huge
lot of weight.
disparity. That's a huge difference between where jet fuel is clear up here on the energy density, and puny lithium battery technology is down here. I mean, 300 as opposed to 12,000 for the same weight, mass of battery.
Yeah, that doesn't work as quite nearly as well for aviation.
Yeah, yeah. Could
Um,
it could work for over the road? Yeah, absolutely. That would, because they're on the ground and there are multiple places to stop over and refuel, and have a cup of coffee and a sandwich or whatever, and then be on your way.
all right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about this. Is it Mark Rober? Is that his name?
Uh
That
huh.
did the video
Oh, this is
on
fascinating.
YouTube. So Mark Rober has a YouTube following of 65
Buckle up,
million subs.
everybody.
Yeah. So um, if you ever were a fan of watching the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote,
Looney
um,
Tunes. Yep.
yeah. So the Roadrunner would paint a road running into a cliff face, and then the Roadrunner go running into it, and then
And
when the road
and through it.
and through it, yeah. When the Roadrunner, or I'm sorry, when the Coyote would paint one,
Right.
somehow a truck would come through it and run him over.
Yeah.
Okay, this
Yeah.
never made much sense. So
Crazy.
this guy decided to create a a graphic across a road, and he said he was going to test Tesla full self driving to see if it would see the Looney Tunes inspired thing. Well, it looks like it was some kind of setup. So, for starters, the Tesla he was driving did not have full self driving to start with, but it did have autopilot. And he disengages the autopilot right before he gets close to the thing and just lets it run right through. Now, I would have thought that still, if you had the right sensor technology, the car would have stopped. Okay. So it still didn't do everything it should have.
Yeah.
But he did try to say that the self-driving car ran right through that, but
So
he
let
was
me
being
yeah let
dishonest about
let
that.
let me set the stage here. He took a Lexus vehicle that has self-driving and uses lidar,
Mhm.
and he took what he claimed is his Model 3, and he had 5 different types of tests. Of those 5, the Lexus passed every one of them. His Tesla passed only 2 of them. One of those tests was what we call the Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote test. He actually set up looked like it's a country road, paved country road, but a country road adjacent, looks like, to an interstate somewhere in California. And he set up a screen across the entire width of the road. Looks like it was backed by styrofoam, and then it had a projector fabric over it. So onto that, then he projected a what appears to be a continuation of the road, a la the Looney Tunes, tunnel illusion with Wiley and the Roadrunner.
Mhm.
So you got this thing and you're looking at it, and of course his point is that the Tesla comes and relies only on the cameras and not the lidar. And so the Lexus with the lidar spotted the fact that this was not, there wasn't a road there. There was a wall there. And now it was projected to look like it was a continuation of the highway, but it wasn't. It was just this projection. Whereas in the case of the Tesla, because it relies on cameras only, it would assume that you can keep on driving. And of course, that's exactly what happened. It would bust through the styrofoam and the projector, fabric, come out the other side, and on the other side was this poor little dummy that they used in the video for all of their tests, right? They had
Hmm.
fog test and the Tesla failed. They had heavy rain, downpour rain, and the Tesla failed. They had this tunnel, we call it tunnel test, whatever you want to call it, this road projection test, and it failed. It did succeed in a couple of others. And I don't remember because the others were far more memorable. That poor little dummy getting knocked to pieces in the test. So that's the impression that you're left with is that, that you depend only on those cameras, you're going to kill somebody or yourself, as opposed to using LiDAR. Now, pick up the story of why this is a little bit shady, Dave.
So the company that makes the LiDAR had their stock go up 27%
Yeah.
the next day after this video was released. Now, this Mark
Yep.
Rober, like I was saying, he has 65 million subscribers on YouTube, and he has about 500,000 followers on X. And people were coming out commenting on the fact that he had a non-FSD car, that he had autopilot, but he turned the autopilot off before he went through the device. But there was some other things that were kind of questionable in the video too, that I don't think are really that relevant to us talking about Tesla and EV. But there's some strange things where what I'm saying is this guy's going to lose a lot of credibility, and he's probably going to get sued over this. And he's probably going to be in trouble with the SEC over this, with what
And
happened as an
and
aftermarket.
and the one you really don't want to upset, Disney,
Oh,
because
I didn't see that part.
because a large part of this video was him sneaking into Disneyland with this lidar, miniature lidar unit strapped to his chest. And I've actually ridden in the Space Mountain thing, and it scared the bejeebers out of me because you're all in
Hmm.
the dark and you're going around all these bends and turns and drops and climbs. And he wanted to lidar scan that. So he wore this portable unit that this company gave him. We'll maybe talk about that. And then he scanned the whole ride. And then he gave that over to a company that can take that LiDAR and turned it into 3D printed model. So he has a replica in scale of the interior of Space Mountain.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Okay, it's pretty cool, right? So that part's really interesting. I guess that's the hook, right? That got you.
Hmm.
And then, of course, he does this apparently questionable test with the Tesla technology, camera versus lidar. Because Elon said, we don't need cameras or don't need lidar. It's expensive. We can do it all with cameras. Well,
That is kind of interesting though, because it's still, if it had LiDAR on the thing, the car should have come to a stop even without, even if human is driving, um, the car is designed to not allow you to get in an accident.
well, who knows? The interesting thing is, right after that story is also a story in there about a autonomous shuttle bus that's operating now in downtown Barcelona, and it had previously been tested in Valence, France. And it is equipped. The point that they make is equipped with cameras and 8 lidars.
Yeah, I would think a mix would make more
A
sense.
mix makes way more sense. Yes.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it has always surprised me how some of the technology is supposed to work just purely with cameras. It's pretty cool that it does, but yeah, the LiDAR definitely would penetrate
Well, it
fog and things like that a lot
yep,
better.
yep, yep, yep. The
Um,
uh, the Lexus stopped in all those. It's they put up this thick fog that you couldn't see. How many people did we have recently die in Texas? There's 17 people in a major pileup in Texas because of blowing wind and visibility,
oh,
dust
okay.
dust storm.
Yeah, that's not
And
surprising.
yeah, and if the cars had that they would have seen, the other vehicles that were stopped ahead of them. So yeah, there's definitely a place for that.
Yeah. So this Barcelona autonomous bus, is this something new in the bus space?
No,
I
that
haven't
there's
really
been
heard much about this type
yeah
of.
yeah there's been various projects like this. This happens to be the company, like I said, was had already tested the technology in France, and they had now, obviously gaining more, wider potential markets. So they've got a test running in Barcelona now. It's not a very far one. It's like 2 miles that in the center of the town that they're running. But it seems to be one of the ways that we can get improve mobility in inner cities and use autonomous vehicles for that purpose, rather than a bunch of taxis,
Well, like
running
the
around.
Waymo idea is decent, but to me, this with the buses makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
Because essentially most of the Waymos are designed to go from specific pickup points to other specific pick
right.
drop-off points, and
Yep.
that's exactly what a bus does all the time.
Yep.
So it could consistently be on exactly the same route and provide something safe. So this was Renault Group is working with a company called WeRide to develop automated public transport solutions in Europe with an L4 autonomy level that can manage driving situations on its own in a defined operational area with remote supervision, but without an operator on board. So somebody could apparently take over the vehicle remotely in those kind of style. Let me see. That was all I had for articles for today, Bill.
Oh, well, folks, if you want more information, there's always more. I'm updating morning, noon, and night. Literally, I am keeping the EV World RSS stream, uh, you know, populated with articles, literally dozens a day. So if you're wanting to keep up with it, go over there and use our RSS service. So
All right. Well,
there,
folks, thanks for
there we
chiming
are,
in
folks.
today, and we'll be back on Thursday. And um, till then, everybody have a great day.